Good afternoon, everyone. Should I say evening? Just after tea time now, so I'm hoping you've all had a lovely day. Welcome to the second edition of Tess Talk. I'm really pleased to be able to record in again and bringing you another podcast. And thank you so much for all the feedback I had from my first one. It was absolutely amazing and I loved it. I loved hearing your feedback. Most of all, it's so nice knowing how much of a difference I've made. And I think that's what makes me keep pushing on, keep doing it and keep continuing to help. Because I want to help as many as I can out there. So let's firstly get what's happened in my week. I've had a busy week. Not many will know this yet, but I actually do life coaching. I'm a certified life coach and I'm just about to finish my qualification as a counsellor as well. So I'm going to be actually leaving work where I'm at now and starting up my own business, which I'll be launching on Facebook shortly and all over my social media channels. But my business is Mind Over Matter Coaching Services. And a big shout out to the lovely Tina Ambrose because she gave me the name. That she's very good at things like that. So I have to give a big shout out to her for coming up with the name, and I think it's very suited to what I'm going to do. This, as with anything with my coaching, a bit like my podcast, it's going to be purely built around helping those with body confidence, helping relationship counselling, mindset coaching, manifestation, self-love, and everything in between. Anything you need, anxiety, anything you need, I can pretty much cover. I offer tailored packages and they start from as little as £25 an hour and go up depending on what you need. And if anyone knows anything about coaching, that's incredibly good price for a life coach. I've actually been certified coaching for 3 years, but only really took it up during my lockdown. So I was furloughed for quite a while. So during lockdown, it enabled me to really push forward and develop my coaching, which is kind of what I wanted to do. So it was really nice to be able to do that and to sort of develop a little bit more of that and realise that if I don't take the plunge now in doing my own business and coaching, which is something that I just feel so passionate about, and that's helping people, I think if I don't take the step now, I'm never going to. And sometimes the hardest thing in life is taking the leap. And there's, a very, very good saying, and it is, at the end of the day, we only regret the chances we didn't take. And it's something that always sticks with me as being very true. We don't take them chances often enough. Sometimes we have to take the leap of faith and see where it lands us. And, to know that I'm making a difference in people's lives is one of the greatest gifts of all. And I couldn't ask for any more. I love being able to help people, and to be able to develop this into a full-time business will be something that my dreams are made of, and I'm hoping that it will be successful. Actually, no, let's scrap that. I know it will be successful. I don't hope it will. I know it will. When we're looking at manifestation and we're looking at self-love, that's what we need to look at. We need to be looking and going, no, actually, I know it will. Why will it? Because I'm going to make sure it does. I'm going to make sure it's successful because I'm going to put my heart and soul into everything I do. And that's what makes it successful. That's what makes it push forward. That's what makes us get up every day and think, today I'm going to go after what I want. So that's a little bit about my coaching and what I do. And if anyone is interested in any sessions or a general chat about what I do, then drop me a message. My Instagram is _alwaysjustbeyou_. My Facebook, most of you know, is Tess Owen. And I can also be reached on my mobile 07593 955 708. So by all means, drop me a message, give me a ring, have a chat, have a coffee. Let's chat and see how I can help you and what I can do to help you. So that's a little bit about my business and what I've sort of been working on this week, and that is one of the biggest things. Now I hope and everyone will be able to get behind me and support and share my pages and share all my bits that I do, because I want to reach as many people as I possibly can. And that's the same with my podcast. Everything is about self-promotion, but I also rely on the listeners. Without the listeners, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. So thank you very much to everyone that does take the time to listen to my podcast. It really, really does mean the world to me, and I absolutely love doing them. So a little bit about my week and what I've been doing this week. So what's our podcast about today? What's our second one about? Our second podcast today is called Coffee and Self-Talk. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by coffee and self-talk? I tell you what I mean. I mean self-love. I mean, let's talk to ourselves like we would want our friends to talk to us, like we talk to our friends. Let's talk to ourselves in a much better way than we do. How many times do you tell your friends, oh, you're really, really worthy of that. You're not worthy of that bloke who's giving you grief and being a complete arsehole. You're worth more. You tell your friends you're worth more. We bash people that bash our friends and that treat our friends badly. So why don't we do the same when it comes to ourselves? Classic old age question. Why don't we do that? Why don't we sit back and think, do you know what? I'm worth more. I'm worth a lot more. Why don't we do that? It's a question we have to ask ourselves. It's a question we don't ask ourselves. When do we ever have a cup of coffee and a self-talk? Do we talk to ourselves? Probably most of us do, especially if you live on your own like me. You'll probably just be chatting away to yourself most of the day. I do that quite a lot. But actually, what is in that conversation that we have with ourselves? What does it do? What does the conversation mean? What helps us enable that to become more self-loving, to become nicer? What gets us there? These are the questions I want you to ask yourselves this week. Why, when I sit and have a cup of coffee, do I not sit and talk to myself in a nice manner? Why do I sit and think to myself, you know what, you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough for the kids. You're not doing enough for your husband. You're not doing there for your friends. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. Why do we tell ourselves that we are not enough? I'm not losing weight. I'm not eating properly. I'm not doing this. We spend too much time telling ourselves what we're not doing, and not enough time telling ourselves what we should be doing. When you speak to your friends, when your friends need a lift, when your family members need a lift, when your sister rings, when your daughter rings, when your sons ring, when you expect for your son the woman that every woman wants for her son, loving, kind, smart, funny, all of those things, we actually need to start thinking, actually, I want her to be happy in herself. I want her to love herself. I want my daughters to love themselves like I love myself. And that's what you wish for your daughters. You wish for your daughters to have better confidence than you do. How can we ever wish that for our daughters if we don't do it to ourselves? If we don't teach ourselves self-love, how can we expect anybody else to do it? That's the question we have to ask. So let's think about it. Let's think about what we do for coffee and self-talk. Let's think about these steps that we can put into place. What am I going to do? So when you sit down and have a coffee in the morning, mid-morning, late morning, whatever it may be, and that might be that you sit down with fruit, it might be you sit down with cake, it might be, if you're a bit like me, you sit down with both. I often have a bowl of fruit and I have a bit of cake as well. I don't feel bad for that. If I want a bit of cake, I'm going to have a bit of cake. If I want a gin, I'm going to have a gin. Have what you want in life. Don't hold yourself back because of other people's expectations. Have what you want to have in life. So when you sit down with a coffee, cake, whatever it may be that you fancy, that you want to sit with, that makes you happy, have something that makes you happy. Fruit makes you happy, have fruit. Cake makes you happy, have cake. If crisps make you happy, have crisps. Have what you like. Have exactly what you like. When we sit down and do that, what do we tell ourselves? How often do we sit down and curse ourselves for not being enough that day, for not doing enough, or sitting there thinking, oh God, I've got jobs and arms long and a list that's, just goes on forever. And we constantly scold ourselves for not doing enough. How about if actually we stopped and we thought, well, instead of telling myself what I'm not doing, how about I start telling myself what I am doing? How about I turn that around a little bit and think, actually, what have I done today? Or what have I done in this last week? What am I still managing today? And let me tell you, it's an achievement some days if the kids are still alive. I make no joke about that. I don't make no joke about that. My kids are grown up, but you know what? They've grown up. They're not in jail. They're still living. Hallelujah. I'm happy for that and I'm grateful. I managed to bring my kids up to be decent human beings. What more could you ask for in life? That's what you can ask for. What more I ask for is that they actually love themselves as well. And my girls do. They probably have a battle with it at times, 100%. But they love themselves. But they see a mum that loves themselves too. This makes the difference when you've got young girls growing up into the world that they're growing up in now. We never had the pressures that they have now in life, and we need to start asking ourselves these questions. We need to start looking inwards before we can teach our children what they should be doing. Before we can teach our children the lessons, we need to learn the lesson first ourselves. We need to teach ourselves self-love. And that's not just women, that's men as well. That's every single one of us. Self-love. That's not just about body image. That's about everything. If you are burning yourself into the ground, take some time out and have some self-love. It's not selfish. It's caring for ourselves first. Our first and foremost should always be self-love. We should always be putting ourselves first. If we are running on an empty cup, how can we help anyone else? We have to start saying it is perfectly acceptable to take time out for yourself. Your time out might be having a hot bath. Your time out might be having a cup of coffee. I actually love to sit out on the hammock in my garden with a cup of coffee, listening to a book normally, and just sitting there, having a little swing on the hammock and just taking 5 minutes to ground myself in the here and now. Just to ground myself in what I'm thinking of right now and where I'm at right now. And when I look at my week, and I plan my week out, I'm meticulous in my planning. I'm always bloody late, and my friends will testify to that. Kyla and Tina will testify. If I'm on time, there's something normally wrong. So I'm normally late. I'll hold my hands up and say I am. Normally it's because I'm running around doing 110 different things, but I'm normally late. But not for the important stuff. If there's important things going on, I'll be there on time. But, when we're going around to meet for a cup of coffee, I know I can get away with being a bit late, and they'll still all welcome me with open arms because they love me. And they'll just put up with it. So, and I'll bring cake. So that always helps, you see. I always bring cake to our weekly meetings. I always bring cake. So that's always a benefit. But the one thing that I look when I plan my week, and I tell my friends the same thing, take some time for yourself. Take some time just to sit. And it could just be 15, 20 minutes. It might be you need a couple of hours. Hot bath, relax, go out. Do something for you. Not for the kids, not for the husband, not for the friends, not for the family, but for you. If I don't want to do anything in a day and I wake up and I think I feel mentally exhausted today or physically exhausted because I have physical, ailments and I have a few things going on physically. If I physically don't feel well enough to do it, you rest. If physically you're not well and you have flu, you rest. If mentally we're not well, we push ourselves past the limit and we need to stop before we get to that limit. We need to stop. How I've learned that, I'll tell you how I learned not to push myself past my limit. Around about 4 years ago, I started having dissociative seizures really badly. I was burning the candle at both ends. I was incredibly sick for a long while, 10, 15, sometimes more seizures a day. I was really, really ill, really ill. And I couldn't work out what it was. They'd said, it's not epilepsy, nothing wrong with my brain. You're just not coping. Now, some of it was brought about by trauma, absolutely, and we can't underestimate what trauma does to our body, but that's another topic for another day. But I realised that in a lot of what I was doing was because I was burning the candle at both ends and trying to be everything to everyone all the time. And it brought me to a grinding halt. I lost my job, I couldn't drive, I couldn't function. I used to have drop attacks when we was in the middle of Tesco's or Aldi, when we're out for a meal, around my friends. My friends all learnt how to deal with my seizures fantastically. My girls and their partners were just a pillar of strength because they had to manage it. But many a time they had to come in to me having a full-on seizure. And it wasn't nice. It wasn't pretty. And it was something that was very traumatic for them as well. And I learned in that I'm not Superwoman. And that's actually okay not being Superwoman. I'm actually okay with that. I'm all right not being Superwoman. I'm okay actually being human, because that's what we are. We're human. And we have things sometimes that knocks us for six and makes us realise that there's more to life than burning the candle at both ends and pleasing everybody and not pleasing yourself. And it took me a long time. I'd say it took me a good 2 years to really come back from that. But now, and I still have, now I've gone through cognitive behavioural therapy and I've actually retrained my own brain to think differently. And I pat myself on the back for that because it was a massive achievement. One of the biggest things I've probably ever done. And I still feel them. If I'm particularly run down or am working hard or running about doing a lot of things, I do still feel them. Sometimes I get a feeling of a seizure. If I'm particularly emotional or feeling upset, what I do about that is I stop. I just take a day off. I stop. I just stop and don't do anything. I think, okay, my body needs to rest. Since I've done that, my body recovers a lot better and I don't have a seizure. I probably, lucky if I have one now, probably once every 3 months, maybe once every 6 months, if that, and they're very mild because I've retrained myself to ground myself in the here and now and through breathing techniques and to breathe through it and put it off. That makes it sound a lot easier than it is. It really isn't. But that's what I've taught my brain to do. I've manifested that almost out of my head. Which, like I said, took me a long while and a lot of training and a lot of treatment. But I do that now. But what I do afterwards is I rest. I just rest. I take time for me. And that's not always easy. I'm not saying that's always easy with kids, family, life. And sometimes you might just need 10 minutes a day. You might not be able to have, if you've got young children running everywhere, a night off or a day off. I'm in a position now I don't have kids at home. So it's easier, they're grown up and left home. But you can still take time. You can still have, 5 minutes in a hot bath. My friend Kyla does Body Shop, and she's Body Shop at Home with Kyla on Facebook. Little shameless plug there. But she's got loads of kids, and she's my best friend, but amazing mother. I mean, I watch her in awe a lot of the time because of how she manages. And she still takes self-care time. And a lot with her Body Shop, she really promotes the self-care and the self-love. And she still takes them 5-10 minutes to have a hot bath. You'll be surprised at how much difference that makes. Self-care is not about how much time we give ourselves. It's about the quality we give ourselves. So start off small. Start off giving yourself 5-10 minutes a day over a cup of coffee, a hot bath, a glass of wine, a gin, and just take 5 minutes. Ground yourself in your here and now. Take some deep breaths. Remind yourself that you are only human. You are not Superwoman. We are not Wonder Woman. We'd love to be, but we're not. But I'd love her legs. I mean, she's pretty amazing, isn't she? But we're not her, unfortunately. And we have to remind ourselves that we are only human and that we do have to ground ourselves in the here and now. And that we do have to remind ourselves that If you didn't get all the jobs done today, that's okay. Because what you did do was took 10 minutes for yourself, which is the most important thing of all. Because we have to for our own mental health. You can't possibly function when you're running yourself into the ground. You need to take them 5 minutes. So I'm challenging you all this week to coffee and self-talk. And I want to see you all post on my wall. I'd like to see you all post your pictures with your coffee and your self-talk. So take a picture of you with your coffee, gin, wine, whatever it may be, in the bath, taking 5 minutes, sitting in the toilet. It doesn't matter. Send it to me. Hop onto my Facebook, hop onto my Instagram, hop onto my social media channels and show me how you've took your 5 minutes and self-love this week. Because that's what I'd love to see. I'd love to see how, we're all coming together to take 5 minutes of self-love. And that's what I want to see this week. I want to see your self-care and appreciation for yourself. Not for anyone else, for yourself. I want you to do it for you. So take the time this week. Like I said, drop me a picture, drop me a message, anything you want to do. Just take the time for yourself this week. And remember, if we manifest it, we can make it. If we make it happen, don't question, don't second guess. Tell yourself, I am going to. And then do it. Because that's the steps we take to positive self-love. That's the steps we take to start having some self-love and some self-appreciation. And that might also mean that you're looking at yourself in the mirror and going, I actually love me. You don't have to love the physical you right now, but you do have to appreciate how far it's taught you, how far it's brought you and what it's taught you. That's what you have to do. You have to remember that, because you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your body. Remind yourself of that. Don't need to get to self-love yet. We'll build on that. But get to appreciation. Get to having some self-love and some self-talk and some positive self-talk. I've said this before. You cannot get a positive outcome on a negative note. For every negative, you'll get 20 more. For every positive, you'll get 20 more. You cannot build positive outcomes on negative starts. It's got to be positive, guys. It's got to be. It has a physical, mental effect, not only on you, but everyone around you. Really, really start pushing yourselves to believe that you are worthy. You are enough. And also, ladies, I want you to build yourselves up, but I want you to build everyone else around you up. I want you to remind yourselves how beautiful you are. I want you to be lifted so high you are looking down to see heaven. That's what I want. Every week I'm going to tell you this, because every week it makes a difference. And I want you to do that to each other. I want you to support each other. I want you to remind each other you're not alone, because you are not alone. Reach out. Anytime, 24/7, reach out. I am here anytime anyone wants to talk. And anytime you want to ask me a question and you want to know anything, my inbox is always open. My arms are always open to support anyone that needs it. But most of all, I want you to support yourselves. Thank you for listening to my podcast this week. I really, really do appreciate it. And I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of self-talk and this little bit of self-love, because that's what we've got to remind ourselves to do. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast this week. Next week, I shall bring you another one. And not sure what that topic's going to be yet. I'll probably decide in the week. We've got a few in the pipeline. But for this one on coffee and self-talk, thank you very much and have a good week. And don't forget, send me those pictures. Look forward to speaking to you soon, guys. This is Tess Talk.